Is brisket a thing for Christmas dinners or any other holiday dinners? I think it is. And that's what we're going to be making today in this video. We're going to be taking this 17-pound USDA choice brisket, smoking it up, and we're going to be making a topping for it. Not a sauce, but a topping that you can put on pieces that are sliced. But we're going to get to that tomorrow. Today, it's all about trimming this up and seasoning it up because, like I like to do, get all that stuff done the day before so the next morning we can hit the grill nice and early. So we do have some fat to clean up here. I'm not going to do a lot of talking. Let's just get this cleaned up. Now you can see when I turn this over, we have this sort of flap here coming off where the point is, and I could take this off, but you know, there's a good amount of meat there. I'm just going to leave it. I'm going to play that by ear, see how it does. Now I don't want to take too much more off on this side because I can get down to meat there, and I will always try and err on the side of more fat versus less meat. I don't want to cut into the meat down there. All right, I'm going to transfer this to a pan so we can get it seasoned up. So the rub I'm going to be using today is jalapeno maple from Simon Barbecue. Now Simon Barbecue sent me a bunch of different rubs to try. I've used them in a couple cooks before. And they actually said, hey, if any of your viewers want to purchase some rubs, we're going to give you a discount code. I don't get anything from this, but you will. So the code is RY40, RY40, and that will give you 40% off your order at Simon Barbecue for the first 40 people who order. And one of the other things they have that is just fantastic is this jalapeno salt. I love this stuff. My son uses it all the time on burgers, on anything he makes. Really good rub. So check out the link in the description below to get you to Simon Barbecue. And remember, if you're one of the first 40 people who use the code RY40, you'll get 40% off your order. Just going to start sprinkling our rub on here. We're going to work on the fat side first. And we got some pretty good surface moisture, so I'm not going to really be adding any binder here. If you want to add a binder, go ahead. You can actually see the chunks of jalapeno in there. Oh, I've used this on some beef ribs before. It's fantastic. Yeah, I love doing things like brisket for Christmas because, I mean, everybody's kind of tired of turkey. Ham is good too, and I love doing ham at Christmas, but if you can do a big hunk of beef like a brisket, I just think it's sort of the star of the show. And with the topping we're going to be making for it, which is a sort of chimichurri sort of topping that you can put on the pieces that are sliced, it's going to be fantastic. Now, I always say that I am not a brisket trimming expert. You can tell that by my job here. I'm a backyard barbecue guy, and for me, this is good. Now I want to get a rack under this brisket here. That way, while it's resting overnight in the refrigerator like this, if it sweats off any juices, it doesn't sit in them. And it's not going to ruin anything, but I do like to keep it off of there so that you do have a little bit of a drier surface on the bottom. Just a little more of our rub on top here. All right, this is ready. It's going in the refrigerator overnight. And tomorrow, I'll see you out at the grill. All right, the Lone Star Grills is up to temp. My target today is 275 degrees. We're burning white oak, and I have water in the cook chamber. This pit can hold water right in the bottom of the cook chamber. So let's go ahead and get our brisket on. So I'm not running a temperature probe at this point. That'll come once we wrap this, and that's going to be probably 4 or 5 hours down the line, maybe more. Really what I'm going for here before we wrap is color and texture. So we're just going to keep an eye on it. We'll come back in about an hour, see if we need to spritz, and really we'll be checking it probably about every hour. So let's get the lid closed, get smoking, and I'll see you back here in about an hour. All right, we've been going for 1 hour. I added a split of wood about 15 minutes ago, and I get that question often, how much wood does it take to run this pit? Well, I find that at 250 to 275, it takes me one of those short splits about every 45 minutes to an hour, and that really helps maintain that temperature. So it can vary based upon temperature outside, a lot of different things. The wood you're using, I'm using white oak today. I find that burns really stable. Same thing with hickory and post oak. Let's go ahead and check our briskets, see if we need to spritz. Now there is some good moisture in spots here, but there are also some dry spots. So I am going to go ahead and do a light spritz here just with plain water. All right, we're going to close this up, keep going. We'll come back in another hour, check it, see if we need to spritz again. And really, like I said, it's not going to be till about probably the 4 or 5 hour mark when I start to see the color and texture where I want it. Color's developing nicely right now. I can see that, but it has a way to go. See you back here in a bit. All right, we are at the 2 hour mark. Let's go ahead and take a look at our brisket. But first, I want to share something. I get questions all the time about fire management. I've never done a video on fire management, partly because there are so many variables to it. I don't think there's any one rule that works for everything. And you sometimes just have to roll with what the flow is. And take a look at this temperature. When I added the last piece of wood, temp spiked. It happens. I've had to deal with that many times. You just have to adjust the vents, wait about 10 minutes, and it comes back down to the temperature you want. So temperature is a fluctuation, especially in a stick burner, just like it is in your home oven. That temperature, even though you set it at 350, it will go above, it will drop below. So for me, temperature control is always an ongoing process. But let's take a look at this brisket. Oh, that's looking really good. Now, I think I mentioned that I usually expect it to be about 4 or 5 hours before I wrap, but this color is coming along super nicely, and the texture I can see is also doing really well. We are going to give this a spritz, but we may be wrapping closer to the 3 hour mark. So let's get some spritz on here, plain water, as I said before, and we'll let this keep going. All right, we're going to close this up. We'll come back in an hour, and if it's still looking this good, we'll be wrapping at that point. See you back here at the 3 hour mark. All right, we are at the 3 hour mark. Let's take a look at our brisket. I have a feeling it's going to be ready to wrap. Yeah, that color, that texture is just right. This is exactly what I want. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it, and I want to make sure that it comes back on in the same orientation, point towards the firebox, and fat side down. That's how I do the large cuts of meat. I like brisket, pork, but to do them fat side down, it's just a personal preference. If you do it the other way, no problem. But let's get this wrapped up. First thing I want to do is get some moisture on my butcher paper here. I'm going to do one roll first. So this is fat side up now. Got some excess here to cut off. Let's tuck the excess under. And get this back on the grill. I want to get a temperature probe in here. That's reading about 130, which is fine. The stall is usually somewhere 150 to 160, but I'm not going to the stall before I wrap. I'm going to color and texture, so this is perfect. And now we're going to let this go until it hits 203 internal, and then we will probe for tenderness. If it's not tender at that point, let it go another 30 minutes and check again. So we'll do like 30-minute increments. I won't really need to worry about the temperature at that point. It's tenderness. So we're going to get this closed up, let it keep going, and I'll see you back here when we hit 203 internal. Well, the sun has gone down. We've been going for 9.5 hours. We just hit 203 internal. Let's check our tenderness. Now the point is going to be tender. It always is. Let's just see. Yeah, that's like butter. Now let's go into the flat from the side. That is very tender. So we're going to get this off here now. It's going to go into a foil pan. It's still going to be wrapped in the butcher paper. I'm going to cover it with foil, and it's going to rest for 2 to 3 hours, just sitting in my oven inside, which is not on. It's just kind of helping hold the heat and bring it down in temp slowly. And in the foil pan, I have these crumpled up pieces of foil, which I usually do like this, so that when I set the brisket here, it doesn't rest in the bottom and any juices that come out. Get our temperature probe out. So I'll see you inside in a couple hours. So our brisket has been resting for about 2.5 hours now, and it's time to build the topping. Really, it's going to be like a chimichurri. I know I called it a topping, but it's going to be based on a chimichurri. Not every ingredient the same, but close enough. We're going to start with about a cup of chopped up parsley. And as usual, let's see if this bowl turns out to be too small. I always do this. All right, next up, a cup of chopped cilantro, half a cup of chopped red onion, a quarter cup of chopped jalapeno. This is just a kind of a small to medium jalapeno. If you don't want any heat, you could leave that out. Half a cup of chopped red bell pepper, a tablespoon of minced garlic, and about half a cup of some ground up walnuts. Now, if you can't buy these, you can just take walnut pieces, put them in a blender, break them up till they're almost like a powder. You don't want them really pasty, but you want them ground up. And you might get some pieces in there that are still recognizable as walnuts. Now, before I add our liquid here, I just want to mix this up a little bit. And you can see the great colors in here with the red and the green. It gives us a little bit of that sort of Christmas feel for our Christmas brisket. I'm going to give a good pinch of kosher salt here. Now, a lot of people, when they make a chimichurri type thing, they have a lot of oil. I don't like to go too heavy on the olive oil. I'm going to start with maybe a couple tablespoons. I'm also going to add a couple tablespoons of red wine vinegar. Get in here and mix this all up. Everything fits in this bowl, but a larger bowl would definitely be better. And you can see this is not really a sauce, it is more of a topping. And that's what I wanted. Our brisket is going to have great flavor on its own, but this is just going to bring something special to it as a Christmas brisket. I'm going to get a little taste here, see how we're doing. It has such a nice brightness to it. I think this is going to go really well as a topping on our brisket. So, well, let's get that brisket out here and slice some up. Well, here is our brisket. And one thing I like to do after a brisket rests is still just kind of check the internal temperature. Just, it's curiosity. It doesn't mean anything. And we've been resting for a little over 2.5 hours. So I'm just going to go down in here. I think you can probably see that from above. That's 157 degrees still. So that's nice and toasty. I'm going to go straight across here, right across our flat. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Got a nice smoke ring there, nice and juicy. Let's go ahead and get a slice out of the flat here for a taste. And you know, I'm just going to cut a little piece from the point here. Turn it to get the right grain. Bark turned out really, really nice on this. I mean, look at that. That turned out fantastic. Nice bendy piece of flat. Got a bit of a juice cilantro here on our board. Got some of this flat for tasting right here. And we're going to put some of our chimichurri on. I'm going to put a little of our topping right here. Cheers. Absolutely doesn't have to have that, but that chimichurri topping is really nice. Now for the point, I'm just going straight in, tearing it apart and taking a bite without anything because I love this. Let's see. The bark, the rub, the smoke, It doesn't get any better for this. And for Christmas, a brisket is the perfect big hunk of meat to please anybody at that table.